right, hey guys, welcome. This is Lance with Redefined Fitness, and today I got a pretty special guest with us, Jeff Mabery, who's been a good friend of mine for about 12 years. Today we're going to talk about his story a little bit, his background, what he does for a living, when he was in the military, as well as an incident that happened about 8 months ago, and what we're doing now to kind of rehab that. So really excited. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
First off, tell me a little bit about when, I know the story, but for them, tell us when you first met. I don't even know if I know when you started CrossFit or when you guys came in. Did Laura start first?
So it was Laura and I came together, and Mike Wilson was the one that got us hooked. Mike Wilson said, "Hey man, this is incredible. You have to try it out." He was absolutely, he was caught up hook, line, and sinker, and so his passion kind of inspired Laura and I to come in and try it. And it was, like you said, about 12 years ago when the box was not brand new, but pretty new. Yeah. I mean, you had paint to sling and walls to hang, and you had a lot of work to do around the box. And I remember we used to help you. We used to come in and help you. I broke your computer.
You broke my computer.
Yeah, I broke your computer.
I do remember.
But we started out way back. It's like a blink of an eye, really. But 12 years ago, I was in my late 20s. Laura was barely 21 at that time. We were still just dating, and we were actually not in great shape. But we weren't like a oh my God, a before and after story. But we came in all right. And she's an actual athlete. She's a bona fide athlete. Yeah, she was a cheerleader her whole life for professional, and she even tried out for the Texans at one point. But she actually took right to it, like a fish to water, and so many girls are so good at CrossFit because they're just, their bodies are different. They're just built different.
The ones who are athletes.
Yeah. So she took right to it. Me, I'm awkward, I'm uncoordinated, I'm not overly strong. I had to work real hard. I had to work really, really hard. And it was a big gut check because, as a dude, you always kind of measure yourself against other dudes, right? That's the litmus. That's the measuring stick. When I came to CrossFit, there was no way I could hang with the guys. There was nothing I could do to lift the weight that they were lifting, go the speed that they were going, or keep up with them. So I had to kind of just like, all right, well, I'll pick a girl to be my measuring stick.
Charlotte.
And I picked Charlotte, because she had big balls, and so. It was always me versus Charla, and sometimes I would win and sometimes she would win, but it was a battle, man. We were really like getting after it, and she was inspiring me to be better. And before I knew it, I just kind of started to get better, and it really didn't take long. But I do remember those first couple of weeks were brutal. They were absolutely brutal.
I know when a lot of people start, they have this sense of like addiction almost. Mm-hmm. You hear a lot of times people say, it's like a cult-like mentality, but in a good way. Talk a little bit about what you noticed, like coming from, like a gym rat to the CrossFit community and the people. Like you say, you met Charlotte and you got to be close with Charlotte, and she was, your workout buddy.
Yep.
Then we had Seth.
Yep.
And then we had...
little Carlita.
Yeah. I mean, all the people that they've come and gone in this industry. Yeah, Big Will. The only other guy I know that's as tall as you. But
he's taller than me. He's bigger than me.
I want to talk a little bit about what you noticed, the difference between like a gym and like a CrossFit community.
The main difference, I would say, is results. If you're 20-something years old and you just want to look good naked, by all means, go to 24-hour fitness and do bench press till your heart's content. But if you actually want functional fitness, if you want, this is really basic, but I'm going to say it as basic as I can. CrossFit made it so that in my work, I used to dread when I would go to a call for service and it'd be on the 3rd or the 4th floor of some apartment complex because I'm like, oh my God, stairs. Then I started CrossFit, and my legs, for the first time in my life, they just felt ready for whatever I had to do. For the first time in my life, I didn't dread stairs anymore. I didn't dread a foot pursuit anymore. In fact, I welcomed the challenge because my legs were ready. My legs and my core and the functional fitness that CrossFit brought to my life put me in a position for the first time ever to not be afraid of a challenge like that, but to actually welcome it. Because to me, compared to, a Monday with Lance, that was easy. You know, whatever was going to happen out on the streets or whatever was, you know, if I have to carry, you know, loads and loads and loads of groceries up into my 3rd floor apartment, it was no longer a problem because CrossFit had given me the functional level of fitness that I needed to do these day-to-day things without issue. Now, at the same time as I say that, you know, I mean, I could have gone in the gym and I could have lifted weights and, you know, tried to just look good naked and show off, oh, let me see how many times I can rep out 225. I've been your classic gym rat. But functionally, none of that ever helped me. And as a matter of fact, when I was that guy, I would always get injured. Whenever something dynamic would happen at work, whether it was, you know, I won't go into great detail, but, you know, a very dynamic and physically trying incident, I would always get hurt. Whether it was a torn labrum, a torn ACL, had them both, I would always get hurt when I was that gym rat. But when I was CrossFitting, my body was ready for anything. And more specifically, my mind was. Because you challenge yourself in here. You really get after it. And you challenge us in here. So any day at CrossFit is not an easy day. It doesn't get any easier. Because as you get better, well, we expect you to do more. You know, as you get stronger, I expect you to put on more weight. Or as you get, you know, more endurance, I expect you to do this faster. So it never gets easy. It's always hard. And when you do that day in and day out, when you take on that kind of challenge, where when the workout is over, you're laying in a pile of sweat, sucking air out of Conroe. I mean, where are you going to find where are you going to find a challenge in your day-to-day that's going to have anything to do with that level? You're not going to find it. So when you do that, when you train like that, the real world is easy. The real world and the real life scenarios that you're going to be put in, you're going to breeze right through. And I did.
So you talk a little bit about some of the injuries, and we'll get into the one that you had recently, but I know you had told me in high school, I believe, on the jetties, you jumped off and shattered your...
So now I was actually in the Marine Corps at that time. I wish I could tell you guys that I like stepped on a toe popper landmine in Afghanistan, or that, you know, I have my Purple Heart at the house and I'm some big war hero, but that shit would be a lie. I was in the Marine Corps. I was a grunt out of 1st Marine Division, and I came home to take a little fat girl to prom that had asked me out, and I didn't have the heart to tell her no. So I came home, took this little girl to prom, and ended up drinking a bunch of Jack Daniels, because wherever we ended up, this little after party, somebody had brought a bunch of kiddie beer and kiddie stuff. You know, there was Zima, and there was, you know, whatever the hell, you know, 2003 offered to, you know, 18-year-old high school kids to get drunk. But somebody, whoever had bought that alcohol, had also bought a fifth of Jack Daniels, which at that time I was a fan. And I said, well, these kids aren't going to drink this Jack Daniels. And I was only 20 at the time, but they're not going to drink this shit, so I'll drink it. And I ended up drinking too much Jack Daniels and found my way off the seawall in Galveston without shoes on, fell about 15 feet, ended up hitting the boulders at the bottom, pow, and I shattered my left heel, so your calcaneus. I literally turned it into bone chips and dust. Well, the doctors were able to save my foot, which was a close call. They almost amputated, but they put in a spider plate with, I think it's 9 pins, moving a lateral from the outside of my heel in. And they ended up later on in life, I'd have to have the whole ankle fused, which that was a horror story in and of itself. So I had that injury. And then fast forward to my time in law enforcement, I got into a fight with some gang members and I tore my right ACL completely. Or no, it was my left. Yeah, it was my left ACL. I tore it completely. Had to have that replaced. They used the center 1/3 of my patella tendon. Dr. Michael George, KSF Orthopedic, excellent. Then I ended up in an incident where I tried to save a kid who drowned. I tore my left labrum, top and bottom. Once again, Dr. Michael George, KSF Orthopedic, he knows me like inside and out, unfortunately. He fixed that as well. And, you know, fast forward, I started to have, later on in life, I started to have issues with arthritis. It's in my family. So I have bone-on-bone arthritis in both shoulders, pretty significant arthritis in every other joint, but mainly it's the shoulders and my ankles.
Yeah. So hearing your laundry list of injuries, take us back to when you first started CrossFit, having these injuries. Now, and some of them may have happened, you know, on the job while you were already a member. Some happened before you became a member. But when we talk through our new members, or even our current members, when we talk about we're taking fitness, but we're dumbing it down, so to speak, to like a physical therapy standpoint. Was there any fear of, I'm not going to be able to do that because of this injury, or I had this injury, I've been coming to CrossFit for a while, maybe you've been sold on the fact that like we can work through certain injuries. So for anybody that's out there that might be afraid of saying, well, I'm going to take that leap of faith and try CrossFit, but I know it's pretty intense and I know the workouts are tough and, I've got this old shoulder injury, I can't do that stuff. What would you say to somebody who is interested but maybe on the fence because of injuries?
So I would be a liar if I told you that there was no level of apprehension or fear. I mean, I think human beings naturally are going to fear things that are unknown. If you've never done CrossFit, you're going to fear it. If you've never, done anything dynamic or physical and you have an injury, you're going to think and you're going to process and you're going to try to tell yourself, depending on what your attitude is, either I can or I can't. That's just the way it goes. That's how people are. Well, I would recommend that people who have a bad attitude or a negative attitude towards their injuries, I would ask them to try to think about injuries in the sense of not a setback or a problem or a negative thing, but think about injuries in terms of a possibility, a challenge, because that's what it is. I mean, that's really what's going on. You injure yourself and you have certain limitations or you have certain, issues. Well, you know what? That creates an opportunity for you to overcome, for you to beat that injury, to overcome those limitations. And the great thing about CrossFit that I found, which I never knew was a thing, was that I found that those injuries, more often than not, the harder that you worked in CrossFit and the more that you came and the more that you committed and the more that you did, those injuries, a lot of them were almost, in a weird way, were self-repairing. They would stop hurting. I use my back as an example. I have degenerative disc disease in my back. I've had injections. I've had electrostimulation. I've had, massages, and I've had physical therapy, and I've had all these different manner of, ways to compensate and to create, health for my lower back. And they all failed. None of them worked. The only thing that has ever made my back feel ready and good, and it does every day to this moment, is to work out, to come in this gym and to work my core and to do the things that you taught me to do and to do it the right way and the safe way. That's the only thing that's ever helped me. And so whenever I've been injured, whenever I'm sacked up in the hospital for weeks or especially months on end, one of my biggest fears is that I'm not working out and I know I'm working on borrowed time. It's only a matter of time until my back locks up and that I'm in severe pain, and pain so debilitating that I can't even get out of bed. So to me, it's a race against the clock to get back into the gym so that I can work on those injuries and I can work on those issues to keep them, in check.
What do you attest? You said that injuries are almost like self-repairing. Do you think that comes from working hard and working hard only? Do you think it comes from like the way that we run our members through kind of like our square one, then we go through, kind of your foundations, your basics, or do you think it's based on the person or both? I mean, it could be both.
It's going to be both, of course. I would say that the most important thing that CrossFit does in terms of a member that has injuries, well, two things is, number one, start with the basics, the fundamentals, and do it right. Coaches right over the top of you saying, hey, whoa, don't do that. You're going to get hurt. That's not how we do that. Number two is coaches saying, hey, look, I know that you have an issue. So if you're not ready, then that's okay. We're going to scale this workout for you, or we're going to adjust. And I'm not going to say you work around an injury, because that would make people think that you're not going to target that injury, because you are going to target that. And we do it all the time. You're saying, hey, look, I know you've got an injury with your right knee. So you know what? We're going to work on your right knee. We're not going to work around it. We're going to work on it, but we're going to do it in a way that's safe. And you guys, in the classes, when it's, pretty much you're going to do what's on the wall, you can still scale things to yourself. But the thing is that the teachers and the coaches and the mentors in this gym, personal friends as you are, you're going to pull that person aside and you're going to tell them, hey, I know that the wall says to do this way, but I want you to do this because I know you have a certain limitation, or I know you have a certain strength, and I don't think that this is going to be good for you. I think you need to do more weight, or I think you need to do a different exercise. And you supplement and you change and you twist things a little bit to help an individual, tailor-made to them, to become better.
Would you say that, because a lot of people have this notion that if I scale a workout that I'm cheating or I'm not doing it as prescribed?
Absolutely.
Would you say that like scaling or modifying is just as difficult, but maybe a different movement?
So to me, whenever there was a workout that was heavy weight, I knew that was going to be easy because, well, you're not going to ask me to move it many times. Yeah. But when you would program something that was either body weight alone or maybe just a small weight, my heart would sink. I would say, oh my God, this is going to be a bad one. Because the truth is that the lighter weight workouts are harder because the intensity is higher. And to me, that's where you end up sweating. That's where you end up leaving it all out there on the field. If you tell me, hey Jeff, here's 405 pounds, let's go deadlift it. Well, I know I'm only going to do that a couple of times. So it's not going to be that taxing.
Your intensity is high in that one lift,
yes.
And then you're
so when you
it.
tell these people to scale or you tell them to move things around, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. In fact, I would say that might be harder depending on that person's capability and how much you expect to get out of them in terms of reps and intensity. Scaling things isn't about making it easy. It's about making it safe. It's about working within your limitations. And everybody has limitations. But the thing about CrossFit is that as the coach, as somebody who is as experienced as you are with the background that you have and the education that you've taken, you're able to look at people and know their limitations sometimes better than they do. And you're able to prescribe a certain thing, a certain weight, a certain lift, a certain technique that is going to fit that person and help them in the long run to be healthier. And that's the point. I mean, we're not doing this. People don't CrossFit to look good naked. People CrossFit to feel good, to feel healthy. And that's how this gym has helped me to transition from that classic gym rat who just was a narcissistic, POS that just cared about looking good and filling out an affliction shirt like the douchebag that I was, versus coming to CrossFit now and becoming an actual decent human being that is around other really decent human beings.
I would say, I'm here all day long, every day. So I see the members who have been here or have been here and then the members who are here now. So I see the stories and I'm in the community every day. Yeah. You were with us pretty much from the beginning. And then you left for a while and then you come back and then you left for a while and come back. And then you guys had, within that time period, you had 3 kids.
Once it's in the blood, it's going to be there for forever.
Yeah. Describe a little bit about the people that are at this gym, because like you work out and you're here for yourself and you're here for repairing an injury, or you want to get stronger, or some people want to look better naked, but they want to do it, in a way that's functional and safe and things like that. But describe for those people who may not know, because it's kind of like when people say, what's CrossFit like, and I say it's exhilarating. It's like, if I go skydiving and you've never been, and I say, man, we jump out of that plane and you're just free falling, it's so exhilarating. If you've never been skydiving, you're only going to know what I'm able to tell you, and you're getting a 1/10 of what it actually feels like. Yep. So when somebody tells me to explain CrossFit, I can tell you how the movement's going to work or how they're going to feel, but you can't describe the community to somebody unless they experience it. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, since you've been here for so long, you've seen lots of communities. You've seen people that are no longer here. And now you're seeing the new people like Johnny and some of the other ones. Tell the people who are listening, what it's like to be in that community when you have maybe that fear of, I'm going to look stupid. And then you come in here and you're like,
there's no way to look stupid in CrossFit. The people here are so understanding and accepting. Do you remember Mimi?
Oh yeah.
Remember Mimi with her little plastic kettlebell? Yep. Oh my God, that's so precious. That's awesome. I loved Mimi and I loved working out with Mimi. Mimi was so inspiring to watch her do what she did. It really was cool, and the people in CrossFit, there's no, I'm going to feel left out, or I'm going to feel like a sore thumb, or I'm going to feel like a fish out of water. Yeah. The fact of the matter is it's quite the opposite. You know, when you go into the gym, when you go into 24-hour fitness, and there's the fitness models, and they've got their selfie camera set up, and they're doing their workout, and they've got their Beats headphones on, and everybody is in there about themselves. Everybody in there is completely all about themselves. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know, if that's your thing and you like to put on your Beat headphones and put your hat down low so that you don't make eye contact with anybody and go do your reps at 225, cool, man, whatever floats your boat. Because you're working on yourself, and that's good. And so I'm proud of you for that. I'm not going to take anything away from that guy or that girl. But when you come to CrossFit, that's not what this is about. It really is, number one, it's a community. It is family. But number two, everybody's in it together. And so many times, I mean, you know, so many times you're doing an exercise, you're doing a workout, and maybe this is your weak point. You're hitting something that you're not good at, and you're that last man standing. Everybody else has finished their workout. Once they get off the ground and get out of the pool of sweat that they're in, what do they do every time? Yeah. What do they do every time? That's right. And what do they do to you when you're still the one working out? Yeah. They come and they support you. They're standing around. They're literally your cheering section. And it's kind of exhilarating. You talk about that word, exhilarating. Well, it's pretty exhilarating to have somebody that you really don't know, but you feel something so good from them, such a good energy, because this person that you don't even know that shouldn't really, let's be realistic, shouldn't care about you. They finish their workout. They're tired as hell. They're sweaty from head to toe, and they get up from the pool of sweat that they were in to walk over to you, watch you finish your workout, and then, you know, cheer you on. It's just incredible. So you're not going to get that at 24-hour fitness. There's only one place to get that, and that's here. And the fact is, from the beginning to the end, from when I first started till now, that's never left this gym. It's been a part of this gym and this culture the entire time.
That's one thing I really love about this gym and the people is it's organic and it happens on its own. We literally opened the doors, bought the equipment, created the program. The community is built by the people's personalities. Like when you come in, there's no like, you know, you have to act a certain way. You have to tell a quota. You have a quota of 5 jokes a week. You got to tell. Like, there's no way that we tell you how to be. It's just the members here when you come in and they greet you like, oh, I'm so and so, and it's like, I've been here 5 years, and I'm thinking, I remember when you first started, and people were introducing themselves to you. Like, it's so cool to sit back and that's something that, like, I can't explain to people, and that's our biggest selling point. Is maybe not a selling point. That's the biggest reason why people stay. Yeah. You can get good workouts anywhere, but the workouts are only as good as the paper they're written on if you're not willing to put forth the effort. And I think, like you say, you touched on, when you have that community, it makes you want to put in a little bit more effort, you know, and you build that friendship with certain people. You're like, hey, you coming at 8:30? Yeah, I'll be there. Like, and you build those relationships where...
And you push each other.
Yeah, and when you come in and that person's not here for that day, it makes your workout a little bit harder, you know? And so
makes your workout a lot a bit harder.
Yeah, I tell everybody, you have no idea who looks at you as like their motivation. Right. So when you don't show up, you could be affecting 4 other people and you don't know it. You know, Mike Wilson was like that. Unfortunately, they moved away, and but he had that personality. He had that infectious personality that people they wanted to work hard, you know.
You, Angel, Mike, I mean, just magnetic people that you just love to be around. And even if you're not working out, I mean, Laura and I, we found ourselves up here many a times that we weren't here to work out. We were just here to say hi, you know. It sounds really bad because I don't want to bag on human beings. I don't want to bag on us as people. But when you get older, you start to realize that certain things about the human condition are not what you thought they were when you were young. People become more, you know, I don't want to say they become more about themselves or more narcissistic, but life is hard. And when you get older, I mean, to put it plainly, there are a lot of responsibilities and you have a lot of things to do, and you've got kids and you've got, you know, soccer practice, and you've got all these things going on, and it really makes it hard to have friends. It really makes it hard to have time for other people outside your little bubble. When you come to CrossFit, you're literally killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because you're getting the most incredible access to friends and family and community, and just a great element of people, but you're also getting a great workout. And the most important thing to me was this. I don't want to say this because I'm often wrong, so I don't want to say anything that's inaccurate, but to put it plainly, only tough people are going to be able to CrossFit and stay here. The weak are going to leave. They're going to weed themselves out. They're not going to come back after the elements class when that first day of, back squat heavy or that first day of burpees, they're going to say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not about this life. So what you get left with is people that are pretty mentally tough, people that are pretty hardcore. And I'm not saying that they're in good shape because so many of us are not, but they're all tough. They're all in between the ears, right here where it matters. They're tough. And tough people are normally good people. They really are. So CrossFit is filled with incredible people. And I'm happy to be part of them.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here with us. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about what brought you back here. Obviously, you've always been part of me and Stephanie's life, whether that be to whatever capacity. We always seem to kind of pick up where we left off. And again, talking about life, life happens, and you got kids, and as Raylan's getting older, it's hard to have those times where you can say, hey, let's meet for dinner or whatever. But anytime you guys stop in, it's always we're right back where we were. So I know you were gone for a while, and you just had your third kid. When you came back, I know it was. Well, I guess you started right before your accident. You were coming back. We were doing some one-on-ones.
We were getting into pretty good shape, man. You had me pretty squared away. As a matter of fact, not to skip ahead too far forward, but that's probably what saved my leg. That's why I still have a right leg.
Well, let's talk about it real quick. So, motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
Take us back to like the night that it happened.
Ooh, man.
And then what happened, to lead us to where we are today.
Yeah. So July 10th of last year, so right at about 10 months ago, actually, it was. I wish I could say 8 and tell you that I was in this, in this position already at 8 months. I was not. At 8 months, I'd not come back to CrossFit yet. I was still limping pretty bad, and I was still hurting. I was still pretty bad off. But either way, July 10th last year, I'm a huge motorcycle guy. I love motorcycles. I love all kinds of motorcycles. I'm not one of those dudes that's just like, oh, it's Harley or bust. No, I've got a Harley, I've got a Triumph. I would have one of everything if I could, because each bike has its own characteristics and its own style and rides a certain way. And so it's kind of like if you were coloring with crayons, you'd want different colors, right? You'd want a little red, some green, and some blue. Well, it's no different than when you get on a bike. Each bike has its own riding experience. And so if you're a true rider, you're going to appreciate the experience regardless of the name on the tank. So that being said, No,
it's I never thought of it that way, because I'm not a motorcycle guy. I mean, because my wife won't let me be a motorcycle guy.
Well, I would say that I would liken motorcycles to heroin. If it's already part of your life, well, then I'm not going to tell you to stop, because you're probably going to continue to do that for the rest of your life on and off, or at least to a little, some extent. But if it's not a part of your life, I would recommend you leave it alone. You don't touch it. Leave it there. Just say no, because they are dangerous. It's not a matter of if, it's when you lay it down. It really is. And I've laid bikes down my whole life. I've been sideways in the grass more times than I care to, remember, but they've all been pretty light crashes, and I pretty much walked away from all of them. The one that got me, the one that nearly killed me 10 months ago, it was a Sunday afternoon. It was about 7 p.m. and it was the hottest day of the year last year. So at 7 p.m., I remember it was still like 104 degrees. And I'd gone out because I said, you know what? It's my first day off in like 2 weeks. I want to do something for myself. I want to go get some riding done. I want to just go out, have a good time, feel the wind in my hair, and go home. Well, I was heading up Kirkendall, and I was following a lady in a brand new SUV. She evidently. She didn't see that traffic ahead was completely stopped. I mean, just at an absolute stop. So she locks up her brakes. She's in a brand new car, has incredible brakes. I was in a 12-year-old Harley Davidson with no ABS, no automatic braking system. So I immediately locked up the front and rear, and it did exactly that. It locked. So I went into a skid, and I might as well have been on ice. There was no stopping at that point. So at 55 miles an hour, yes, I was speeding. I'm sorry. But at 55 miles an hour, I was able to just barely get out from behind her from hitting her. I mean, just flat on right in the middle of her back bumper with my front wheel. I was able to get just outside to where basically my right crash bar is what impacted the back left end, the driver's side of her rear bumper. And I don't know exactly what happened after that. All I know is that the bike somersaulted a couple of times, did a couple of flips. I was thrown, and I ended up rolling up Kirkendall and ended up in the inside lane on my back with my feet facing towards Tomball and my head facing towards Spring. And, I was just kind of laying there and I thought, oh man, that did not just happen. And then I look over at my bike. I checked my bike before I checked myself. I was like, my bike. And I look over and it was all jacked up and I was like, oh, damn. So about that time, I said, all right, I better do a self-assessment because my bike is pretty much thrashed. I look down at myself and I think, I'm okay. I think I'm all right, right? I don't feel anything. But I looked down and I saw something and I had to take a double take. I had to look back at it twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My right leg, about 4 inches below the knee, was literally an L. My right foot was facing due north, even though my body was east to west. And I said, oh my God, that's not right. That's not supposed to be like that. And out of vanity alone, it wasn't about pain. It wasn't about medical necessity. It wasn't about, hey, I was trained to do this, because I wasn't. Out of vanity alone, I said, I'm fixing this because I don't like looking at that. So I picked up my leg and I straightened it, which the doctor would later tell me that was a good thing because it probably, helped save my leg. But either way, I didn't do it because I knew what to do. It wasn't out of training or knowing better. It was just out of vanity. I don't like looking at that. That's ugly. That is not going to, get my wife to get naked tonight. So I picked my leg up and I straightened it. And I laid back down on the ground. I said, well, there ain't much else I can do. Let me lay here and wait for the cavalry. And a young lady ran up and she said, oh my God, my name is Jennifer. I'm a first responder. Are you okay? And I said, Jennifer, my leg is broken. And she said, okay, let me take a look. So she kind of starts to hover. And mind you, I'm a tough dude, but I don't like injuries and I don't like blood. So after I straightened my leg, I did not look back at it. And I was wearing pants and boots at that time, big leather riding boots. So I didn't see blood. I didn't know that I was bleeding out. I didn't know anything. And I didn't feel any blood because when you're bleeding heavily, you can feel that warm, hot blood. But it's 104 degrees outside, so I didn't. So, excuse me. So I'm laying there and I hear Jennifer say, as people are starting to crowd around now, because mind you, the train had come through, all traffic was stopped. And so it was like people got out of their cars and just started hovering. Well, as that happened, Jennifer screamed out. I remember I was laying on my back and she screamed out, oh my God, somebody get me a belt. And immediately I knew, my heart sank and I said, oh, Jesus, she's trying to fashion a tourniquet. She's trying to make a tourniquet. And then she screamed it out again, but if you'll excuse me, I have to use a curse word. To quote Jennifer, she screamed, somebody get me a fucking belt. And that's when I knew that I was in trouble. So somebody took the belt literally off their waist and handed it to her. She tried to make a tourniquet out of it. A little, a tidbit for the viewers. Belts don't work. It's not going to happen. You're going to need something better. So eventually some redneck went and grabbed a ratchet strap out of the back of his pickup truck. And he came and they used a ratchet strap and just kinked it down until they couldn't kink it anymore and put it mid-thigh and were able to slow down the bleeding enough to save my life. So Jennifer literally saved me. If it wasn't for her, I'd have bled out and died. By the time I got to the hospital, they said I'd lost over half the blood in my body, which is about twice the amount you need to lose to die. Yeah. However, immediately upon arrival to the hospital, they were able to put an IV in my arm and start pumping me full of, I guess it was saline to begin with, and then later on I would have a blood transfusion. But going back to the crash, I was laying down. Jennifer was helping me out. When it really got scary is when the EMTs showed up, when the medics showed up. And mind you, I'm completely wide awake, completely 100% mentally
not feeling
there.
Anything at this time? No pain?
To tell you the truth, no. I really wasn't feeling a lot of pain. I guess it was my adrenaline, but I wasn't in shock. I cannot stress this enough. I was on my back directing people. I was telling people, hey, shut down that lane. Hey, put the tourniquet, go high or die. I was directing and helping these people to help me, which was really weird. In fact, one guy, he actually said, no, it was Jennifer. She said, hey, somebody get me a blanket. And I smiled at her and said, Jennifer, I know you think I'm in shock right now and you think that I'm cold because that's what you were trained to see people do. I said, Jennifer, it's 104 degrees out here, honey. I'm not hot, or I'm not cold. I said, I am hot. It is really hot out here. And she goes, oh, it's not that, honey. I was going to make a pillow and put it under your head. And I said, oh, Oh, well, hell yeah, give me a blanket. So it went like that. It was a really funny encounter where I was awake, I was conscious. I didn't know what my leg, I knew it was broken, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know that I'd torn my shoulder to pieces. I didn't know that my spine had taken a lick and that I would eventually lose the use of my arms, which I would. I had no idea how bad off I was. When the EMTs arrived, it was so funny. They were like Bert and Ernie. There was a real tall, skinny female and a real short, fat female. And I just remember thinking, I was like, oh, it's Bert and Ernie. And they get out of the ambulance and they come walking up, and EMTs are real cocky. They're all, what do we got here? And then Jennifer turned, and I think that she actually, if I'm not mistaken, she had used some medical shears or a knife or something and cut my pants leg. When she opened it up and showed them the double open compound fracture and both of the bones completely exposed and the amount of blood, they immediately started to panic. The EMTs started to panic. And I'm watching this. I'm watching them. I'm not
Which is not a good sign.
Yeah, and I said, that is not a good sign. Why are these girls panicking? And that made me really scared. And I tell people this, the thing that I remember most about my crash is not pain or blood or any of that. It's just being afraid. That's what I remember the most. And they started panicking. They start doing their thing, and they end up putting another tourniquet on my leg. And I remember it was real funny. She was real sweet. The EMT said, okay, Jeffrey, I'm going to put this tourniquet on you. It's really, really tight. It may be uncomfortable. And I said, that's what she said. She started to laugh. And then they got a little bit loose after that. And I think that things kind of got a little more calm. They put me on a spine board. They strapped me down. Then the fire department showed up and they were helping out. They were real cool. But I remember at one point, I'm listening to them now. I'm listening to them talking to their radios to prep the hospital, and I'm listening to the things that they're saying. They said something about a broken femur, which I was very fortunate. My femur was not broken, but they thought it was. They said double open compound fracture, severe bleeding, severe blood loss. And I'm listening to all this. And so I said, all right, well, triaging myself, I said, let's not worry about death quite yet, but let's worry about my leg. So I asked the EMT, I said, hey, am I going to lose my leg? And it was one of those questions where I thought I knew the answer. I thought the answer was, well, of course not. But she didn't say that. She said, sweetheart, we're doing everything that we can. And I kind of was like, whoa, wait, that's not a no.
I'm not ready to be a pirate yet.
That's not the answer I was looking for. And that's when I got really, really scared. This whole thing was like a hill of going up, 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 up in terror. And it would ultimately culminate with being at the hospital and, and the drugs that they gave me and the ketamine and the bad trip and everything else. The terror was just, I don't even like to talk about it. Yeah. But it was something, man. It was,
Did she know at this time yet? Or when did she find out?
So funny story. I had actually, I don't know why, but my first instinct when I crashed was that I didn't want any distractions. I didn't want anybody to do anything from the outside to affect where I was because I needed to focus. I was 100% committed to focusing on my breathing, staying calm, staying controlled, staying, appropriate. So I turned my phone off. I literally turned my phone off and said, this is not a factor in my life right now. I'm not even going to use it. I'm not even going to worry about it. And I laid there, and then in a minute I realized, like, damn, I should probably tell Laura because she's going to need to know. She's expecting me home in 10 minutes. So I told the guy next to me, and I don't even know who he was. He was from the vehicle that I'd hit. I said, hey, can you call my wife? And he said, well, give me your phone. I said, dude, if I was going to call my wife on my phone, I'd already done it by now. Can you get your phone out and can you call my wife? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So he called her, left her a message because she didn't answer. She would eventually check that message 10 or 12 minutes later, and then she met me at the hospital. But when we got to the hospital, it was even more terrifying. It was like a scene out of ER. It wasn't one of those where you show up, and so many of us that have been to the hospital, we know how it goes. You show up and you think that you've got a legitimate crisis. And they say, okay, have a seat in the waiting room. Or they say, okay, and they put you on a gurney in the hallway and leave your ass there and nobody comes back to you for another 40 or 50 minutes. It wasn't like that. When I showed up to the hospital, the whole welcoming committee was there, including all the doctors and the trauma surgeons and everybody, which was really disconcerting. And then a doctor himself grabbed my gurney and was pushing me into what would ultimately be the operating room. And he said to me, he goes, Jeffrey, I'm sorry, but I can't give you any pain meds because your blood pressure is way too low. And at the time I thought, well, hell, that can't be right. I've got hypertension. I've got high blood pressure. There's no way that I have low blood pressure. I just had a goddamn crash. I should be like, my shit should be through the roof. And then I thought about it. I said, what does that mean? And then I came to the conclusion. I was like, damn, dude, you don't have any blood left. You're losing too much blood. So that was terrifying. That was scary. And then I'll move on to a funny story. When I was in the actual operating room, the doctor told me, he goes, okay, Jeffrey, don't worry. In a couple of seconds, I'm gonna pump you so full of ketamine, you're gonna be out. You're gonna be gone, and then I'm gonna set your leg. And I said, great, good. And I was really waiting for that. I hate to say this, but the whole time that I was dealing with all this, I was waiting for the drugs because I just wanted to go to sleep. I wanted it to be over. I wanted to wake up in a hospital bed with a cast on my leg and have it be over and just be like, okay, now we're on the downhill side. Now it's time to heal, right? I wanted to get over that hump, get over that mountaintop and just be on the downhill slope. So I was waiting this whole time. And when he said that, I was like, great, good, doc, let's do this. Because I knew that in 10 seconds, I was going to open my eyes. It was going to be the next day, and I was going to be laying there with a cast on my leg. Well, that didn't happen. After he said that, a couple of seconds later, I'm laying on my back, and I swear I'm laying there naked, and I've got just this tiny little, I don't even remember what it was. They're laid over my crotch. I'm laying there butt naked, and I felt like somebody poured battery acid all over my leg. It was the most painful thing that happened this entire ordeal. And I came off the table on both ends. I came up, my head, my legs, and mind you, I've got severe neck trauma, severe shoulder trauma. My leg was no longer attached anymore except for by muscle. So literally when I came up off the table and made a V, I did a V up on the damned operating room table, my foot lassoed around the room and spurted blood all across the ER. And all my coworkers and friends who had gotten there by this time, they couldn't hack it. They left and they walked out the room. But I screamed out when this happened. I said, ow, God damn it. I thought you said you were going to sedate me first. And the doctor kind of laughed. And I remember the nurse her eyes were this big around because she almost got kicked. I literally almost kicked her in the face. And her eyes were this big around. And the doctor kind of said sheepishly, he said, Jeffrey, I didn't do anything yet. She was just pouring sterile water on your leg. And I said, oh, well, that hurt really bad. And that's the last thing I remember because he said something after that about like, okay, let's get this kid under, hey, push it. He said something to that effect and then I was out. I would eventually wake up in a pre-op area where they had already set my leg and they had medicated the hell out of me. And eventually I would wake up and I heard Laura. I heard my wife's voice. And I heard one of my best friends from work, Corey Alexander, and they were talking and they were right next to me. And I didn't know where I was, but I kept going back and forth because of the ketamine they'd given me into this bad trip where it's so funny, but it's not funny. My son, my oldest, Jeremiah, had been playing endless Minecraft prior to the crash. So every time I was home, sitting in my little chair and trying to relax, I'm watching him play Minecraft and swing his little pickaxe and do his little thing. And when I was having my trip in the hospital, my trip literally was that every time I'd close my eyes, and that's how ketamine works, you trip when your eyes are closed. When you open your eyes back up, you come right back to the world. It's very strange. So every time I'd close my eyes, I was in a three-dimensional Lego/Minecraft land, and they were burying me. I was dead, and they were burying me, but they had dug too deep, and when they put me in the hole, they had dug into another level underneath that level, and so I fell through my grave and then was falling through the air in a completely different world underneath the other world. So I was obviously terrified. So I opened my eyes, and then I'm in the hospital, and there's, beeping machines and all this weird, alien stuff to me. And I thought, oh, this is even more terrifying. So I'd close my eyes and go back to the bad trip, and it would start right where it left off. And then I would open my eyes back up, and we did this back and forth until I finally passed out. Then I would eventually wake up in my hospital room, everything, the bone squared away, the leg fixed. They'd put a titanium rod down my front bone. Help me out here. Tibia, whichever one, I don't remember, the big one. They put a steel rod down my tibia through my knee. That's where this scar came from. They had to go through the knee, which is an interesting story. The doctor told me before he could do the surgery, I had over 2 liters, enough to bleed out and die, according to medical textbooks. I had over 2 liters of blood hemorrhaged and displaced just in my right leg in the muscle. And when he cut this knee open, he had to put a tube down and into my calf to drain that blood out. And it just geysered out like a like an oil well. Once he got all that blood out, he was able to do the surgery, which is funny. I asked him later, I said, did you get that on camera? Because I'm like a huge like pimple popper guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to see you do the surgery, and I don't want to see the bone. I don't see anything else, but I do want to see you guys are out 2 liters worth of blood and bodily fluid out of my knee through a hole in a tube. Like, I don't know why, but I want to see that. He goes, Jeffrey, it was 4 a.m. and I was tired. I just didn't even think about it.
I didn't get my phone out.
I didn't get my phone out. We didn't put that on Snap. Sorry.
Well, I know. I think I got a text from Laura a couple days later, and she had told me what happened. I think it was Laura had texted me, and of course, we'd said like anything you guys need, let us know. I think we were out of town, and we didn't get a chance to come see you at the hospital. I don't think we were there very long. Yeah, Angel was able to come up there.
He made fun of me because I was asking him for bands and stuff to work out. He's like, bro, you just need to rest.
Yeah. Well, and then, fast forward to where we had your benefit, the little barbecue benefit.
That was awesome.
And, you were in the wheelchair, you had the neck collar on, and we were already at that point talking about when you wanted to come back, making a plan. And it wasn't very long. You'd come back, and we kind of start off slow, but talk about the process of when you first started back to today. We probably had maybe 8 sessions or so, something like that.
The biggest thing is the mental part, right? You've got to look at yourself and assess the situation and say, okay, this is where I am, but this is where I want to be.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off. Obviously, you were cleared already. I want to make sure that people know, like, you were already cleared from...
I didn't jump in front of the gun or come back too soon. I got my full clearance to work out from my doctors. And, don't get me wrong. I mean, full clearance or not, you're still hobbled. You're still hurt.
But we had to make sure we were still physical therapy, kind of that next level.
And that's what your programming has been up until this point. I mean, it's literally, it is no different than physical therapy at a physical therapy center, except for you take it to another level in terms of intensity. So I'm not just getting the stretch, and I'm not just getting the workout, quote unquote. You're getting your ass whooped. You know what I mean? It's a real gut check. So coming back, from that first visit till now, I've been able to lose a tremendous amount of weight because laying around in a wheelchair and having nothing to do but eat, I gained an incredible amount of just fat. I mean, I probably went up to probably in excess of 30% body fat, okay? From then till now, watching what I eat, coming back, working out, and Laura and I do the things that you've taught us to do. We do it on our own time in the backyard. We have kettlebells, dumbbells. We have some barbells for cleans and maybe front squats. We do basic stuff there at the house just to kind of fill in the gaps because I can't come to CrossFit 5 times a day, or 5 times a week. So we supplement there at the house, and it's been a journey, man. It's been. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it's been fun because a challenge is not fun. When people say, it's fun to play football or it's fun to play, professional baseball or it's fun, the word fun, I think that what they're really saying is it's a challenge. And what's fun isn't the actual game or the actual exertion of incredible amounts of energy and strength and mental toughness. Like, that's hard. That's really, really hard. CrossFit is really, really hard. It's not necessarily, when you're in the middle of a workout, you're not sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is so much fun.
I never want it to end.
Yeah, I just love it. I never want it to end.
More burpees? Sure.
That is not what CrossFit is like. But the second that it ends, the sense and the satisfaction and the knowing that you are better now than you were 10 minutes before, because 10 minutes before you hadn't done that 10-minute AMRAP, right? That's the satisfaction, and that competing and that besting something and that beating a goal or that beating a challenge, that's what's fun. Now, overall, it's fun. In the moment, though, I mean, I'm sure if you ask a defensive tackle from the Eagles, how much fun do you have playing the Redskins? Like, he's like, God, I hate it. It's like, it's like getting into a car crash every Sunday. But the satisfaction of competing, of especially winning and reaching your goals, that's what this place is about. And that's what I love. That's what I take away from it.
Yeah. I think you've seen, just in the short time that you've been back, I get a lot of, I could never do that. It's impressive what you guys do, but I could never do that because I've got an old injury or I've got this. I mean, today, we're 10 months since your wreck.
A donor tendon in my left shoulder, full shoulder reconstruction.
Heard the whole story about his leg, and today he's jumping on a box, 20-inch box. That's
a seizure. Help me out.
the collarbone.
Spinal fusion.
Oh yeah.
Spinal fusion. Three vertebrae in my spine.
Yeah.
I would eventually. I said earlier that I was crippled. I didn't have the use of my hands. Laura had to feed me for about 4 or 5 days, but it would eventually come back. And long story short, the spine was so injured but not severed that there was intense swelling, and the swelling caused me to lose the use of my arms. After the swelling went down, it would come back, but I was told by my doctor, he said, look, if you even so much as have a bad fall, you could end up in a wheelchair, a paraplegic or a quadriplegic actually. And so I said, okay, well, what's my options? And he goes, I've got to do surgery on your neck. And so it was a no-brainer. I had to have that, which the neck surgery, in all fairness, was probably the worst. The shoulder surgery was nothing. Michael George did my shoulder again. Love the dude. Funny story, he drove past my crash and didn't know it was me.
Really?
Yeah, he drove right past it. He thought, man, I should get out and help this guy. But he was driving his kids to a movie at the Shenandoah theaters, and they didn't want to miss the previews. And he was like, no, he's probably okay. And he just drove on past.
There's a girl there with a belt.
Yeah, she's got it under control. Jennifer's got it. She's in complete control.
Well, the story is pretty amazing. I love the fact that you're vulnerable enough to come out here and talk about something that's pretty traumatizing to not only you but like your family and your friends. But just a testament to what we try and do here is kind of show people like it doesn't matter where you're at. Like CrossFit's for anybody, but it's not for everybody. Like you said, it's hard work. At the end of the day, we want people to move the way their body's designed to move. We want them to move safely and effectively for whatever sport they play, or just to work in the yard, or just to get out of bed and not hurt in the morning. So for somebody to come in after a pretty traumatic wreck or accident like that and be able to do, not only just go through physical therapy, but if you just went to a 24-hour fitness gym and did your normal stuff, people would probably be amazed by that. But the fact that you're able to come in here and do things like a box jump after you just had your leg shattered, it really is a testament to not necessarily me, but what the CrossFit programming does. And we do all of our own programming here. We don't have anybody that tells us what to program. Every individual person that I work with, we assess and we make sure that the movements are designed to help them. Not every movement is beneficial for everybody, but at the end of the day, we all move in the same degree. In other words, my wrist moved just like your wrist. My fingers move just like your fingers. Like my knee goes out just like yours does.
You say that. It's funny that you say that. But CrossFit and the things that you take away, I say you being all of us, okay? The things that you take away are more than just obviously functional fitness. I mean, you take away a mindset, you take away a mental toughness, you take away all kinds of things that will pay dividends later in life in other areas. And going back to my crash, I'll tell you, my doctor that redid my leg, that saved my leg, his name is Braden Hartline, and he works at Memorial Hermann in the Woodlands. An absolutely incredible physician, but even more than that, he's just an absolute good-looking dude. I thought he was a male stripper, and I was like, dude, get the hell out of my room. I don't care to see you get down into your G-string. And he's like, no, I'm your doctor, Jeff. And I was like, yeah, the fuck you are. You ain't a goddamn doctor. He looked like right out of a Hollywood movie. I don't remember saying this, but evidently I told him, I said, man, I wouldn't blame my wife if she divorces me and runs off with you. But he's just an absolute gorgeous man and incredibly cool. But he told me that he said, look, you were in incredible shape. Like you were in really good shape when you crashed your bike. He said the muscle mass and the muscle density and the amount of actual just flesh that you had is what saved your leg. Because if you'd been, to put it plainly, a chicken-legged just dweeb, I'd have amputated your leg. I'd have taken it off below the knee. So my muscle literally was somewhat of a barrier and a cushion that saved the bone to some extent of the trauma that it otherwise would have been. And Dr. Hartline, he basically said, and you can see from the scars on my leg, all 4 points. The shin is where the bone popped out. On the sides of my calf and on the back, the muscle actually burst through the skin like a zit popping because it had nowhere else to go and it had to displace. And so that muscle being there, I mean, literally just kind of was its own little little airbag. And Dr. Hartline made it very clear to me that if I hadn't, and not to mention my shoulder or my neck and how much worse they'd have been if I had been in poor condition. But when I wrecked, I was in great shape. In fact, some of the greatest shape of my later life, not necessarily when we were in our 20s and I was doing toes to bar, but I was in really good shape and I was pretty solid. I remember Laura and I had been trying to have a fourth kid. So I was doing everything I could to be as absolutely good looking and and sexy as possible. I mean, I was manscaped and shaved, and I was tanned, and I was in good shape. And I remember thinking, laying there on the gurney, butt naked, I was like, well, if this had to happen, this isn't a bad time for it, because I mean, these assholes see fat, out of shape, just nasty bums, coming in here after getting hit by a car, wiped out by a Honda while panhandling. They're seeing this nastiness, and then here I am, I come along, I'm like, well, twisted steel and sex appeal, and hell yeah, man, they're gonna love this shit. So we had a good laugh about it, but it was true. And that came from you, and that came from here. Some of it was on my own at the house, but even that is from you, because everything that I do, from the kettlebell swings to the goblet squats to the, everything else. Where did I learn that? Where did I learn to do that?
I want to say here.
Yeah. That's where I learned it. I learned it right here. Yeah. So it literally saved my leg.
Cool story. Obviously not cool in that. I mean, it's cool now that we're at where we're at. I really appreciate you telling your story. I know that's not a easy topic to talk about, but I definitely think it's one sharing that way that people can see. Not only can you come back from an injury like that and do CrossFit, but being prepared in case something like that happens. Like you just said, if I wasn't in decent shape, they would have amputated my leg. So it's not a matter of, well, I'm in great shape, I don't need to do CrossFit. No, you probably don't, but it does make you physically prepared literally for anything, And that's what we try and preach, is we want to make you prepared for anything, not just prepare you for a marathon, prepare you for a weightlifting meet, prepare you for a sport, prepare you for whatever.
When you're the Ottoman, you're going crawling up a damn mountaintop to try to get a bow shot on an elk,
Elk hunting, last 2 years we've gone on elk hunting, and I'm telling you what, I know as a police officer, you're carrying around a bunch of stuff. Well, we've got a 40-pound back rucksack on, plus all your gear.
And your weapon.
And you're hiking 12 miles, and if you shoot something, you got to pack out 400 pounds of meat.
And you can do it.
Yeah.
And you can do it.
I have no problem doing it.
That's right. In fact, if anything, it's another light day.
Yeah, I am walking today. I'm not having to clean a barbell.
Not having to do burpees.
Walk on my hands. I'm literally just walking.
I can do this all day long. I can stand on my head if this is all you ask me to do.
And those are things that are fun. Like, to me, elk hunting is fun. Like, I don't mind the packing and the walking and the hiking. Like, just being out in 1 million acres in Wyoming or wherever where we're at. Just knowing that I'm physically fit when I'm on top of a mountain and I'm 12,000 feet up in the air on all these switchbacks, and I'm looking out at millions of acres. It's an accomplishment. You feel like, man, I hiked all the way up here, with all this crap on me, and I feel fine. Just being physically prepared for it, and that's kind of the whole idea. Is forget about the fear, forget about the I can't do that. Like, let us worry about what you can and can't do when you start, and then we will progress.
You remember Zach?
Yeah.
Zach didn't have legs. Okay? For all those that don't know, Zach literally has from about 4 inches below the hips, has no legs. Zach taught me to do squats. Zach was the one that said, "Hey man, you need to switch some things up. You need to change things up." And I've been doing it ever since, the way that he showed me, because he knew what he was doing.
He's never squatted a day in his life.
Never squatted a day in his life. He was born without legs. I remember he told us a story one time talking about mental toughness. Talking about being tough. Said that when he was a kid, his mother wouldn't hand him a cup from the cupboard. She would make him get up and get it himself. This guy's got no fucking legs. Like, how's he going to get up there? Well, you better figure it out. That's the attitude that his mom had for him, not because she didn't care about him, but because she loved him and she wanted what was best for him.
Well, if she wasn't there, he was going to have to figure it out for himself.
And so Zach taught us, he gave us that story, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Or like Angel, he sits there and, he's crippled from the waist down, but he comes in here and he kicks ass, and he has a beautiful bride who, is just absolutely stunning, and he's living life like, he's killing it.
Yeah.
And, most people lose the use of their legs, which Angel did midlife as an athlete, as an incredibly in shape, capable, fast and powerful athlete. He loses the use of his legs from the waist down. And you know what he did? He said, well, you know what? Damn the torpedoes. I'm still going to succeed. I'm still going to thrive. As a matter of fact,
it's amazing
succeeding.
People
he thrives.
Gripe about running,
Yeah.
And I always go, Angel, will you want to run today? And he's like, I'd love to run today. And they're like, well,
absolutely.
Shit,
I'll run till I fucking
I guess
puke.
I'll go run.
Love to. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, again, I really appreciate you coming out here and telling your story. It means a lot to us as a gym, but also as friends. I don't know if I've actually heard the entire story, so it's really cool. If you guys have any questions out there, we'd love to have you come in, check us out. Redefined.fit. There's a free trial link. Click that link. Come and join Jeff for a workout, and let us show you guys that no matter where you're at with your fitness, we can get you to where you want to be safely, effectively, and we're going to have some fun. Come join our awesome community of people.
The fun part.
Yeah, the fun part. Yeah. Thanks, guys.